Welcome back to another episode of the YeahDat podcast hosted by me, West Coast Rob. How are y'all doing out there? I hope y'all are doing well. I'm doing well, busy as always, but what else is new? Hope y'all are doing well. Homie's doing well. Last episode 55 this year thus far. We spoke about many things. The episode actually had to get cut short because of some family issues, which I'll get into it. But episode 55 this year thus far, we covered a lot of things from Stanley Cups to Vince McMahon. Briefly covered Vince McMahon and some other things. So if you haven't checked that out, make sure you do check that out. And if you're a new listener, welcome to the podcast. For those returning, you already know I love y'all. Appreciate y'all as always. Episode 56, welcome. So before we start, I want to say RIP to Toby Keith, country music legend. He passed this past week from his battle with stomach cancer. And he passed peacefully as put out by his family, laying in bed. He was surrounded by family. He battled stomach cancer for a few years now, and he finally succumbed to it. So RIP Toby Keith. If you don't know who Toby Keith is, country music legend, has hits like I Should Have Been a Cowboy, How Do You Like Me Now, just look him up. He has a few commercials for Wounded Warriors as well. So RIP Toby Keith, died at the age of 62. You will be missed. Condolences to your family. Speaking of family, so I had to cut the last episode off early because I received a phone call. For those of you who listened, you already know. So this is the update for y'all. For those who aren't aware, who didn't listen or watch the last episode, which is up on YouTube right now, I have received a call midway through the podcast from my wife who went to the store, went to Walmart with my daughters. And she called me and said that some dude was giving her some issues or whatever, wasn't letting her pass through the aisle because she was black, and was just kind of harassing her. And then dude was giving some shade to my daughters or something like that. So I was like, all right, me being me nowadays, not new, but older, more mature. You know what I'm saying? I try to diffuse a lot of conflicts nowadays. I try to avoid a lot of conflicts. Back in the day, I would have flew over there and been like, yo, what the fuck? So with that being said, I tell my wife, I'm like, hey, you know what I mean? Just don't pay him any attention. If he comes at you, whatever, then call me and I'll fly over there. She was like, oh, wait, you should probably just come anyway. I was like, all right, fuck it, I'm coming. So I wrapped the pod. I wrapped up the pod of the little segment I was doing. I left, flew over there. As I parked, my family was walking to my wife's vehicle a couple of rows over. So, I'm coming through, and my wife's like, hurry, you're going to miss him. So I'm looking. I was like, oh, he's in his car, or he's walking to his car. I was like, point him out. Where's he at? So my daughters are at my wife's vehicle. Me and my wife are walking to this guy's vehicle. So we walk over there, and there's a car backing out of a spot. Homie's in the passenger seat with a lady driving. So my wife's standing there and she's pointing at him right here. So I'm like, oh, this is the dude right here. So I'm up on the window and I'm pointing at this dude. The dude sees me and gives a thumbs up. I was like, roll your fucking window down. So he rolls his window down. I was like, oh, it's all good now. Thumbs up. We're good. He's like, oh yeah, no issues. He's like, if I may, be able to tell my side of the story. I was like, no, I don't want to hear your side of the story. I was like, if it's all good, then it's all good. Carry on. So then he was like, has anybody ever told you that you look like Kanye West? And I was like, no. And I proceeded to walk away. So my wife was talking to the lady, the lady on the driver's side who was driving the car. So then I came back and my wife was like, yeah, he was harassing me. He was giving me attitude, blah, 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 this and this. And then, but it's all right. You know, he's obviously apologetic and it's okay. So the lady driving the lady driving the car was like, what? Oh, I didn't even know. I was in the other aisle and I told him not to start any stuff or whatever with the attitude. He's like, I'm so sorry. And then she was apologetic to me. And then she's like, oh, please excuse him if you were able to forgive him, da, 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 or just let it go. And I was like, yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. That's fine. Just, you know what I mean? That's fine. It is what it is. So then we walked off. They drove off. Dude's waving. So I'm like, yeah, all right, whatever. So then, you know, we load in the vehicle. And then the car pulls up in the row that we're in. So then we're on the driver's side. The lady's right there. She's closer. We were speaking over dude last time. Now we're speaking directly to the lady. And she rolls her window down again. She's like, oh, thank you so much, sir. If you would just please excuse him for his actions. And I tell him this all the time because the other day he gave me attitude, woo woo. And now I know I got to walk with him everywhere he goes, yada, 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 woo woo. And I was like, yes, ma'am. I'm like, no problem. I was like, you have a good day. And then she was like, oh, she's like, thank you so much. Like, please excuse him. I'm sorry for whatever it was he did. He's mentally ill, et cetera, et cetera. And I was like, okay, that's fine. I was like, my wife works in she works in that field. So she knows and she deals with those individuals or whatever. But no worries, no issues. Have a good day. So she's like, thank you. She's like, oh, thank you so much. Da, da, da. I was like, all right. She drove off. We're loading. My youngest daughter's like, oh, now I feel bad. So I'm like, now don't feel bad because a lot of people use that as a cop. If he is mentally ill or sped or special ed or whatever the case may be, then okay, we didn't know. But a lot of the times nowadays, you got to really be careful because people will abuse that term or that phrase or that saying or whatever you want to call it by, oh, he's you got to excuse him. He's mentally ill. He's special or whatever. He's sped. He's this and this. So for those of you out there listening, moral of the story, you know what I mean? Be careful out there because individuals may be like the man I'm referring to in this situation was an older gentleman. He wasn't very old, but he was older than me. He was probably like high 40s. So he might as well been. Maybe he was, because according to the lady, like, you know, she has to tell him all the time. She has to watch him, et cetera, et cetera. So he might have been. How was I to know that? Luckily, nothing came of it, but maybe that's why nothing came of it, because of his condition. So before y'all jump to conclusions or jump or ready just to throw down or do whatever you feel that you need to do in a certain situation with certain conflicts, before it gets physical, kind of take your time and assess the situation, assess the individuals you're dealing with, because you never know nowadays. You never know. My wife, she works in that field, like I said, and a lot of her students are 20, 21, 22 years old, still in high school. You know what I mean? Because there's a certain cutoff time. I don't remember cutoff age. But I don't remember the age. I believe it's 22 before they have to go on to adult services and get adult assistance. But yeah, so be careful out there. Be careful out there when you're dealing with any kind of misunderstanding or situations like that, because it could have turned out ugly. Then you in the wrong. You know what I mean? But that's how that went. So this past week was on February 6th. I'm not sure if you're aware. February 6th was National Give a Compliment Day. Now, I heard this. I meant to post something on social media about it, but I forgot. I was busy working or whatever. And where I work in two different buildings and constantly commuting downtown. So you're constantly passing people who are just walking down the street, getting their steps in, working in the high rises, the courthouses, etc. So um, the sixth was National Give a Compliment Day, and I don't know who comes up with these days. Like, who comes up with the days? Do people vote on what they want each day to be? Like, how's that work? But National Give a Compliment Day was on February 6th. Uh, I wish everybody knew that, because me personally, I don't know, I enjoy interactions with people. I mean, I'm big on sociology and just kind of meeting new people, because every person has a story. Everybody's different. You can learn something from everybody. So I'm big on that. Um, I say that the compliment day because I posted on TikTok about a month or two ago, how I was in Harris Teeter grocery store and I was at the self checkout, and there was like an older lady to my right. She was like in her 60s, and we're both, doing our thing, checking out, and she smelled good. She was actually in front of me in one of the aisles, and I was behind her, and I was like, "Dang, this lady smells good." And then so happened she was beside me, checking out as I was checking out. So we're checking out or whatever, and I went over to her. I didn't go over to her, but I was like, "Excuse me, ma'am." She's like, "Yes." I was like, "I just want to tell you, you smell really good today. You smell not today, but you smell really good." And then she's like, "Oh my God, thank you so much." And I was like, "No problem, no problem. I just wanted to tell you that you smell really nice." She's like, "Thank you. Oh, you made my day. I thank you so much." Like, she was elated. So I was like, it just makes you feel good, because like she genuinely smelled good, and I was just like, "That's what's up." You know what I mean? So I finished checking out, and then as I proceeded to walk out, I told her, I was like, "Man, you have a good rest of your day." She's like, "You too, you too. Thank you so much." And then I walked out. This was like a month or two ago, but I don't know. It's just, there's something that you get from complimenting somebody. Like, the other day, I was talking to somebody, and then a lady was walking by us. It was during lunch, as downtown at work, and as I'm talking to who I was talking to, the lady walks by and she's like, "Oh, hello," to us. I was like, "Oh, how you doing?" And then she's like, "Oh, good, thank you." And you can tell she was getting her steps in. So I was like, "Oh, okay, I see you. I see you getting your steps in, ma'am." She's like, "Oh yeah, yes, sir. Got to. I got to." I was like, "All right, you have a good day." She's like, "Oh, thank you, you too." And it's just like the little things like that. So I mentioned that the 6th of February was National Give a Compliment Day. And I say that to say, make sure y'all are doing that more often. You know what I mean? Because a lot of people, and a lot of times, especially nowadays, people are like divided in a lot of things. We're divided as a community, divided as a society. So little things like compliments and just small talk and making somebody smile, you never know what that does for a person, if it'll make their day or not. So we need to do it more often and come together as a community, as a society. So National Give a Compliment Day should be every day, is what I'm saying. Ultimately, I guess you can say. But that day was a few days ago or last week or whatever. So make sure you're complimenting people, being more down to earth, more humble, more empathetic, because we need it. Simple and plain. Simple and plain. Shout out and condolences to my people out there in Hawaii. They're dealing with the massive Maui wildfires. So a lot of people have lost a lot of property. People have lost family members. So condolences to those out there dealing with that. And to my folk out there in San Diego, man, the crib is dealing with a lot of shit, from the flooding to tornadoes. Like, what is going on? What is going on? I've seen a lot of memes of from folk back home, and they're like, tornadoes, a tornado warning, or a tornado in San Diego. We're not built for that, and that's a true statement. born and raised in San Diego. San Diego ain't built for tornadoes. Like, where they do that at? I seen another meme when it was a face of a person like kind of freaking out, and the meme said realizing San Diego doesn't have basements. It's like fact. You know what I mean? So it's just like tornadoes in San Diego is just crazy. Crazy to hear. It's just abnormal. It's like what is going on? Floods, tornadoes, wildfires in Hawaii. Man, 2024 is pretty crazy thus far. Maybe Baba Yanga's predictions, you know what I'm saying? If you aren't familiar with the predictions of Baba Yanga, I covered it in a couple of episodes ago. Look it up. Look it up. But condolences to y'all dealing with those wildfires in Hawaii, and then with the tornadoes and all the other weather-related issues in San Diego. I hope y'all staying safe out there and getting the resources needed and the help needed. Be careful out there, man. Be safe out there. This past week, we're a week removed from the Grammys. And for those of you who watch award shows, I mean, kudos to y'all. Growing up, my sister and I, we used to watch award shows. And as a matter of fact, when I went to Florida a few weeks ago for my daughter, what award show was on? Some award show was on. And me and my sister were sitting there watching it. But it was mainly because of the host. It was Joe Coy, my uncle, you know what I'm saying? My Filipino uncle. He was hosting. I forgot what award show it was, but he was hosting, so we watched it. And the Grammys this year, it was hosted by Trevor Noah. He's all right. Not really a huge fan of Trevor Noah's, but he did a good job from what I'm hearing. But the big things I want to cover in regards to the Grammys were a lot of the fans were very upset with the outcome of best rap album, best rap song. And, I wasn't aware of it until I picked my daughter up from school. She's a junior, and she was like, "Who's Killer Mike?" So for those of you who are unaware, Killer Mike won best rap album, best rap song, and one other award. My apologies, Killer Mike. He swept the rap categories. So doing that, of course, the fans got on social on the gram and were like, "Oh, what is a Killer Mike? Who is a Killer Mike? Why didn't Travis Scott win? Da da da, woo woo, this and this." So I was like, so me and my daughter were talking about it, and I'm like, y'all motherfuckers are like dumb. Like, what? Y'all are dumb. So just because y'all don't know, I guarantee y'all don't know who this dude is. Y'all probably didn't listen to the album. And the fact that y'all's current age dude, Travis Scott or whoever else was nominated didn't win, y'all feel like y'all got to go online and cry and all this shit. So I was like, okay, let me go and listen to the best rap song. I was like, all right, it's all right. So let me go listen to the album. That Killer Mike album is hard. That shit is hard, yo. That Killer Mike album is hard. And then you got to think, for those of you out there, if you're possibly one of the people who was upset with Killer Mike not winning, the album, best rap album, is exactly what the title of the category is. Best rap album as a whole. Not, oh, I got a song here on the radio. This song's on the radio. That song's on the radio. It's the album as a collective. And his album as a collective, that shit's hard, man. That shit is hard. He got some tracks on there. And then you got to think about and really listen to what he's saying on the songs. It's not about yeet, 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 and all that shit that Travis Scott is saying. Now, mind you, I fuck with Travis Scott, but a lot of his shit is like, yo, what the fuck is he saying, bro? He's just not saying nothing. He's just making music, and there's nothing wrong with that. A lot of people have their opinions in regards to people being artists and how they are able to make good music and how people are good rappers or good singers or et cetera, et cetera. Like, oh yeah, this person's a good rapper. But you know what I mean? You got to be like a real hip hop head, or this person makes good songs, but if you really think about it and you really listen, they're not really a good rapper. You got to think about shit like that. But that Killer Mike album, was it Scientists and Engineers? That shit is hard, man. Let me get the proper title of that Killer Mike album. That shit is hard as a mug. So best rap song was Scientists and Engineers, and the song has Future and Andre 3000 on it. Yeah, you hear those two names, it's like, oh shit. The song is different though. You listen to the song, it's kind of like, what? But it's different. You gotta listen to what they're saying. And then the rap album of the year was titled Michael, and has a picture of him with a halo and some horns in it as a little kid. But for those of you who don't know who Killer Mike is that dude. He's, college educated, activist for the culture. Like, do your fucking research before y'all get on here talk about the fuck is a Killer Mike. Y'all sound stupid. Y'all sound young and dumb is what y'all fucking sound like. Y'all are dumb as fuck. He's been down with Outkast, Run the Jewels. Like, do y'all's fucking research. Y'all some dumb motherfuckers, man. But congratulations to Killer Mike. It's a shame that shit wasn't televised either. I don't watch award shows. I didn't watch the Grammys. I like to see the performances, but there's certain shit that is just like, what the fuck? They didn't show best rap album awarded, best rap song. They didn't show any of that, but they show other boring shit. Like, I ain't even trying to get it started. Is it white privilege? Maybe. Or is it business? Probably. If the name was bigger, then maybe it would have been televised. Who knows? Well, a lot of people know, but for those, the general pop like myself, if you really break it down, you think about it, it kind of makes sense. I don't like how they didn't show best rap album and Killer Mike winning that, but they showed that fool getting arrested. That's fucked up. Don't show that shit, stupid motherfuckers. Another big thing that happened on the Grammys was Jay-Z talking his ish about Beyonce not ever winning album of the year, but she has the most Grammys. I mean, it kind of goes along with what I just said in regards to best album is album of the year. You know what I mean? Like, it has to be one of them joints where it's like, bang, I don't even want to skip a song type deal. Like, people can make songs. That's what makes you popular, make you pop, make you money. But in regards to making a nice collective, are people able to do that? Not all artists are. So, he just said his piece, said what he felt as he received the Dr. Dre award, and it's just, he's just saying his piece, man. You know what I mean? But shout out to him, and shout out to Jay for using his platform to get his point across and put that awareness out. Because now people are going to be like, okay, oh yeah, I get it. You Grammy motherfuckers, we watching y'all now. And since we're talking about music, I noticed a lot of y'all who are on TikTok, or I know those who are on TikTok have noticed a lot of y'all's videos have said muted on them, myself included. I scrolled through and I'm like, yo, why is this muted? Why is my song gone? What happened? Why you gotta pick a new song? Reason being is TikTok and UMG, the Universal Music Group, have not agreed to terms regarding music and royalties. So UMG pulled a lot of their artists on there because they feel as if TikTok isn't providing the proper what's the word? I know you're saying it out there as you're listening to this, but I can't think about it right now. But it's all a royalties thing. They feel like they're not getting the proper pay, and the pay isn't equaling the usage of the songs. For example, you have a video that uses a certain artist song, say a Drake song or a Taylor Swift song or whatever, and that video is getting thousands, maybe even millions of views. Vice, those views turning into the revenue going back to the artist as it should. So UMG and TikTok haven't come up with a deal in regards to royalties for the songs. So UMG was like, okay, you want to be like that? I'm gonna pull every artist that's UMG that falls under the UMG umbrella, and we're pulling them from TikTok. So that's the reason why your videos with the music are saying muted until they can come up with an agreement. Then that music will be put up back on the platform. Until then, you're gonna have to pick another song that works for your videos. I've had to do it. It is what it is. You know what I'm saying? Oh man, a lot of new stuff out there on Netflix. So Netflix is going in right now. Netflix got some bangers on there. I've always loved Netflix. They got bangers on there from docs to shows. And the show that I recently binge watched and finished was Griselda. Netflix's Griselda Blanco. That was hard. You know, I'm a fan of like the Narcos and all that stuff. You know, I watched Cocaine Cowboys 1, Cocaine Cowboys Reloaded, Cocaine Cowboys 2. I've watched all that. All that covers the cocaine epidemic in Miami in the early 80s or the 80s, early 90s. So Netflix has recently come out with their own little series from the directors of Narcos, and it's entitled Griselda, starring fucking golly, Sofia Vergara. My bad, I had a brain fart. Starring Sofia Vergara as Griselda Blanco. If you don't know who Griselda Blanco is, type her name in or go on Netflix, because now Cocaine Cowboys 2 is on there, and Cocaine Cowboys 2 is strictly about Griselda Blanco and how she had a relationship with some drug dealer cat and all that stuff. It's all right. It's not like Cocaine Cowboys 1, but it's good. But Sofia Vergara stars as Griselda Blanco, the godfather of cocaine, and show's good. It's a limited series. I think there's 6 episodes, but that shit is hard. That shit is hard. If you didn't watch the Narcos series, you can still watch Griselda. It doesn't tie into it or whatever. But I mentioned the Narco series because in the Narco series, it's in Spanish and it's subtitles. If you're not into reading subtitles or not able to watch a show or anything with subtitles, then you wouldn't be able to watch Griselda because that's the same way. But they speak English in it too. But it's entertaining, man. It's entertaining. You should check it out. Actually, Griselda isn't Spanish with subtitles. I'm tripping. There's Spanish being spoken in the show. Spanish being spoken. They're using Spanish in the show. You know what I'm saying? And they show the subtitles. But they speak English in the show a lot. So you are able to watch it. And I highly recommend it because that show is hard. It's hard. Sofia Vergara, everybody's used to her being the goofy one from Modern Family, and she really shows her range and her growth as an actor as she is a starring role in this doc. And it's hard. It's hard, man. She did a great job. Great job. Highly recommend it. I'm into that stuff. If you're not into that stuff, you should still check it out anyway, just to see the range of Sofia Vergara and how well she did. It's a very well put series. You should check it out. And Sofia Vergara, she's pretty. She doesn't look like herself in the show, but she's still Sofia Vergara. You know what I'm saying? Check it out. Check it out. I also tried. Like I said, there's many docs on there on Netflix, and there was one that kind of caught my interest, and it's called Rael, and it's about a dude who has or starts a religion. I'm doing air quotes for those of you listening, a religion, but it's more so a cult. And dude was abducted by aliens. He's from France. Was abducted by aliens, comes back and starts, giving out the word from his encounter with the aliens and starts a whole movement and has a following and everything. They're called Ryalians. It's crazy. I tried watching it. I watched the first episode and I couldn't stick with it. I could not stick with it. It looked interesting, and then I don't know. I couldn't stick with it. I got probably about 3/4 of the way through the first episode and was like, no, not watching this. So if you're interested in stuff like that, which I am, but that one for some reason I couldn't hold it down. So you should check it out though. It seems interesting. And if you do, let me know. Let me know if I need to go back and watch it. Let me know. Aliens and passing the word. Also, in the springtime, the gopher or the groundhog or whatever didn't see his shadow or saw his shadow. Groundhog Day, that whole ploy is just dumb to me. It's going to be a short winter, a long spring, or early spring, whatever the case may be. But in regards to spring, on April 8th, there's said to be the longest and most visible solar eclipse in 100 years. It's going to be the longest and most visible solar eclipse for the U.S. in 100 years on April 8th of 2024. The U.S., for those of you who listen, who stay or live in the U.S., the United States will witness its longest and most visible total solar eclipse in a century, with a maximum duration exceeding 4 minutes, making it an exceptional event in recent history. The eclipse path will extend from north central Mexico to northeastern Maine, with the longest totality duration of 4 minutes and 28.2 seconds in Mexico. So for those of you who live in Mexico, y'all are going to have the longest duration, the ability to see the eclipse the longest. With an estimated of 32 million people residing within its path, this eclipse presents a rare opportunity for a significant portion of the U.S. population to witness the moon's shadow firsthand, marking a historic celestial event for the nation. I know we've had plenty of eclipses come and go, but if you haven't seen an eclipse, this is the time to do it. April 8th. So mark your calendars out there if you're eager to see it. And I remember back in the day, they're like, all right, you should never look directly at an eclipse because you can go blind. But then they're putting stuff out like this for us to go look at it. I don't know. Crazy. Will I be trying to check it out? I don't know. Maybe it's a ploy for them to hit us with the Men in Black little phase gun, the little boom. You know what I'm talking about? Y'all know what I'm talking about. But yeah, April 8th, 2024. So, all right, finally, y'all. So, my homie had a little shindig. I mean, he had a little going away they put together for him. So, a bunch of us fellas got together and, we met at a sports bar. It was a couple weeks ago. I think it was like wild card weekend for the NFL to give y'all a timetable, time frame. So, we all got together, at the sports bar, had some food, caught up, had some drinks. And one of my homies brought his brother. So he no one ever met his brother, you know what I'm saying? So my homie's Puerto Rican. So he brings his brother, who's Puerto Rican. And we're all, we're all, what's up? We introduce ourselves. We're all kicking it, all engaging in conversation. So the brother, who's an older cat. So the older cat starts dropping the N-word. Now me, like I have a lot of homies who are Puerto Rican, who are from New York and Chicago, who have used the N-word. I know the N-word is a sensitive subject, a sensitive topic for a lot of people, and a lot of people don't like it. A lot of black people don't like the term and don't use the term with other black people. For I'm just talking about for me, my experience, my opinions. So I have a lot of homies who are Puerto Rican who have dropped it before, who have said it before. Have I been offended by it? No, not. I have not. Like the word, I don't know. The word doesn't really offend me like that. But would I get upset if somebody were to use it the way we use it? For example, we had at the table we had Puerto Ricans, we had black dudes, we had white dudes, we had yeah, that was the mixture of people at that table. So my my white homie, like I use him as an example because I rewind. The brother dropped the N word. I mean, not in a vulgar way, but in the endearing way normally used by black people. So my little homie, who's black, heard it a couple times. I didn't hear it the first few times, but then I heard them talking about it. So my homie Richie, whose brother's the one using the word, was getting at his brother for using it. Now his brother is getting defensive, like, "Yo, what do you? Whoa, this is how I talk. I'm not gonna change for anybody. What do you mean? Da da da. Woo woo." So my little homie, my little homie, was kind of taken by it. It's like, "Yo, what are you doing, bro? Like, why are you saying it? Like, you're not black." So the person we're there for, Esteban, Puerto Rican, you know what I mean? He's used it before with me, you know what I mean? And I don't think nothing of it. So he's coming in and they're all kind of chiming in. And I'm just like, yo, what is going on? So I finally get caught up to speed with the issue. So I explained it to my little homie E, we'll just name him E. And I'm like, yo, a lot of you gotta understand because my homie E's from the South, uh, Rich and his brother from Chicago. Esteban is from Puerto Rico, but lived in New York. And for those of you who aren't familiar with those areas, Puerto Ricans and black folks, they grow up together. They go through a lot of stuff together. Like for example, I'm from California, and I grew up in a predominantly Latino culture, Mexicans. So a lot of my homies are Mexican and black mixed. I'm Filipino and black. So we have that. I know we have that bond and that understanding because we all come from the same neighborhood, same area, deal with the same adversities. So we see we just all as one. Basically, is what I'm trying to say. We're all one coming up. So if my Mexican homies or my mixed Mexican homies or whomever were like, yo, da, 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 my nigga, what up, da, 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 I'm not gonna take offense to it. Be like, yo, what the fuck you just say? You know what I'm saying? Because there's that understanding there. Is there like a double standard or to the phrase? Of course there is. There always is because like I was telling my boy E, who's from the South, not used to that. He's more predominantly black community, black white community, not really with the Puerto Ricans. You know what I mean? So I told him, I was like, yo, it doesn't offend me that he's dropping that he's saying that because of where they're from. They're from Chicago. They understand. They grew up with a bunch of black folk. Now my boy who was sitting over here at the table, my white homie, Connor, is from Utah. Enough said. Yeah, from Utah. So he's white. White. Now, if he were to say it, then it would be like, whoa, bro. Like, all right, chill out. You know what I'm saying? You know what I mean? We're your homies and stuff, but nah. Is that a double standard? Absolutely. Absolutely. But there's like a past, there's an unwritten rule for certain people. I'm not going to say for black people. I'm not speaking for all black people, but there is an unwritten rule. Because if you think about it, you listen to Fat Joe. Fat Joe's Puerto Rican. Homie says it. Big Pun. I don't know if Big Pun says it. I can't remember. But I know Fat Joe says it for sure. And he's Puerto Rican. Fat Joe's been on records with black dudes rapping, saying the word. You know what I mean? So it's just there's that unwritten rule and that unwritten understanding. But it was just it was funny Because I was sitting there eating, drinking, watching the game, and they're having this debate. I chimed in a little bit, and I was like, I'm saying, but it's you. To my man E, I was like, if you're offended by it or whatever, then you have that right to be offended by it because you're not used to it. Can my man be a little more respectful about you being offended by that? Yeah, of course. Instead of him being like, nah, this is me. I'm not changing the way I talk for nobody. Da da da. I mean, that can cause confrontation. You know what I'm saying? So it's like you just got to find that medium because there's double standards to a lot of things that we deal with society wise. That, you know what I mean? As long as you find that respectable boundary where you're not offending and you feel like you don't have to compromise who you are, then everybody can just keep it moving. Them dudes found that understanding. My man, my little bro E, he got it. You know what I'm saying? He understood why he was saying it because it was just something he wasn't accustomed to. And then, we proceeded on with the night. So I ask y'all out there, for those of you who are out there and used to that, what are your thoughts on that? Do you feel as if you aren't black, you can't say it? Or do you feel as if, a Puerto Rican homie, a Dominican homie, or whomever, if they're engulfed or and they grew up in that culture, they got the right to say that? And I had to tell my homie E, I was like, yo, my homies right here, that Puerto Rican, you see them. You know what I'm saying? They're light complected, whatever. But there are some Puerto Ricans that are niggas, boy. There are some niggas. There are some Puerto Ricans that are blacker than you, darker than me. They're Dominicans, darker than me, darker than you. So I guess that's why they get that pass. You know what I'm saying? Because there are some Puerto Rican niggas, dead ass, Dominicans, Panamanians. You know what I mean? There are some dark ones, and I had to tell him that. And he's like, "Oh, well, I didn't know." Like, no. And I was like, "No, there's nothing wrong with that. You didn't know. So you're standing up for what you do know. I mean, there's no issues with that." So, what are your thoughts on that, y'all? Do y'all think it's an issue that no one should say it if you aren't? Like, what are your thoughts? Let me know in the comment section, or shoot me some DMs, comment down here on the podcast, and let me know your thoughts. But with that being said, we're gonna wrap it up here. Episode 56 of the YeahDat podcast. Thank y'all for listening. Make sure y'all do what y'all do. If you made it through and you're new to the podcast, make sure you follow on Instagram at YeahDat podcast. We post clips, we post news, we post a bunch of society related stuff on there. Also follow on TikTok at YeahDat podcast, where we do the same thing. Make sure you rate and you like the podcast. That way you're caught up with every episode, and the ratings help boost the podcast up so more people like you know what I'm saying, can discover the podcast and share and put on. Make sure you hit the links. Check out the links in the show notes. If you want to donate to the show, there's a link in the show notes. I appreciate y'all so much for everything. Also, make sure y'all follow on YouTube as well, because I post the video clips of the podcast on YouTube, youtube.com/West Coast Rob. And with that being said, thank y'all once again. Love y'all. Appreciate y'all. And until the next episode, it's the homie West Coast Rob signing out. YeahDat.